thanks everybody for the work you do. The good news is you're all going to get credit for this as part of the Fiscal Integrity Act credit. We were asked a question in the first one of those we did today, and found out that we can give you credit, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, what we wanted to do with this call, it works a lot better if you're going to ask questions as a discussion rather than a lecture. I like those better because we can answer questions. So if you're going to ask a question, please do. We really want you to. And so under the red arrow is a drop down, raise your hand button. Do that. When we call on you, you just unmute. It works pretty seamlessly and we can have a discussion. It's just the information sharing part at the beginning. We're concerned about the revenue picture for governments across Ohio. Townships in some cases are going to be a lot less impacted than some of the bigger or some of the other governments, to the extent that you aren't having as much reliance on income or sales taxes, for example, from a JED or a TIF, you're going to be less impacted. We think property taxes are going to be relatively stable. Some counties are kicking the property tax pay date, but remember, property taxes are pay a year in arrears, so that's going to impact some of that, but we just don't think those impacts are going to be as substantial. You are going to see impacts from the gas tax receipts, and potentially an impact as well from the local government revenue sharing that comes from the state receipt of income and sales taxes. To put this in context, the state, however, is already anticipating a fairly significant hit. We are anticipating, based on the state revenues and the information we get from the governor's office, we wish we had a little more current information, but you know, they don't get the information right away, and then they have to massage the data. We anticipate state receipts are going to be down close to 20%. They're anticipating a budget hole in the $6 billion range going into next fiscal year. Remember, the state fiscal year starts July 1st. We're ending this fiscal year, and then the state will start the next fiscal year July 1st. Looking at that, that could dramatically impact the local government funds. Sales tax collection for the state, the auto sales tax for the months were estimated to be down as much as 40 to 60% down. For the non-auto sales, 10 to 20%, 10 to 30%. The governor did a 20% non-GRF, non-personnel cut for state agencies just to end this fiscal year. Going forward, we anticipate similar adjustments. So all of those are good benchmarks to tell you that your non-property tax revenues could take a significant hit. It's possible you take a hit in your property tax as well, but we think that's going to be more stable. So that's a revenue type projection. From the state perspective, from the auditor's office perspective, before this hit, about 600 of our 800 employees worked remotely. Now we went to 100% remote. Most people, it was relatively seamless. Our audit numbers seemed consistent with this time last year and 2 years ago. So our audit work's getting done. So if you're engaged in an audit with us, you're probably hearing from the auditors. It may be that we're doing it a little differently. We're trying to do things remotely. We're trying to do things over messaging. By the way, we encourage you, if you're going to use video conferencing, we encourage you to use a product like Teams or Skype or something that's more secure. The state IT director has issued a warning about using Zoom because there are some security issues there. So we just encourage you to take that into consideration when you're doing that. If we can help you with Teams or one of the other products that we have access to, we're happy to do that as well. Our audit should be going normal. It may be we ask you to pull some records and then we come pick them up and do those as well. We do some things remotely, but our audits are going forward. With regard to your meetings and public records, you're still required to have your meetings. We asked the legislature in their emergency bill to give you permission to do things by video conference and by teleconference. They did that. That's good news. You need to make sure you're still recording those. You still need to make sure the public has access to participate and join in on those. So publish your sign in, your logon information so people can join and watch those, and then make sure you keep the recordings. That will take care of largely those issues. So those are the highlights. I do want to give a shout out to your association and thank them for all the work they helped to get these set up. Heidi's been great. You guys need to know how much of a rock star you have, and so we sure appreciate it. I'm going to go to questions, and here again, if you want to ask a question, just click the raise your hand button in the control panel, and we'll have you unmute when we call on you. Our first one's Ron Grossman from Jackson Township. Ron, how you doing? How are things out there in Jackson Township?
Good. Where do you unmute this?
You just did. You're live.
All right. My question is, can you estimate how much the delinquent property taxes are going to be here in the second half, and what's next year going to look like?
The first question is we can't. Your county auditor is probably a better take on where that is. That's going to be localized around the state. We really don't anticipate a whole lot of uptick in that across the state. We do have 20% unemployment, so that's going to be a factor. But remember, there are a lot of property taxes on the individual level that are escrowed, and there's no reason those banks aren't going to remit that. On the commercial side, most of that's probably going to be relatively current, but you might see some. In some of the counties, you've seen a deferral where they're giving people a reason to pay late and waiving late payment fees and things like that. You just need to talk to your county treasurer and your county auditor to give you a handle on that. Remember, they can also do revenue anticipation loans or advancements. So if that's necessary, make sure you use that. However, if you're one of those townships that anticipates you're going to have a problem, you're going to have a revenue problem, contact us early, because we want to get our local government support folks out there. We want to provide you the support as early as we can to put those people on track. Hopefully that helps, and that's the best we've got from that. Again, we don't have all the answers. We're having a tough time getting information from OBM and Department of Tax, just like you are. But we wanted to go ahead and start giving the information we have, because look, planning and adjustments over a longer period of time need to be smaller than if you have to do a lot of adjustments at the end. And so we've encouraged people, particularly when it comes to the gas tax revenues and things that are going to be predicated on local government funds or income or sales tax collections. The 20% benchmark that the state's given is probably a good benchmark to use. And if it's more than that, at least you've done some preparation. If it's less than that, you're pleasantly surprised. So hopefully we answered your question. Our next participant, welcome to the call, is Candace from Monroe Township. Candace, go ahead. If you had did I answer your question? You want to follow up? Go ahead. He's not on. Okay, Candace, you're up.
I accidentally hit the button.
Sure. How's everything in Monroe Township?
Busy, but I accidentally hit the hand button.
Well, that's all right. We're just having you join us. I get it.
Sorry,
right.
I don't have anything to say right now.
Well, that's good. Our next caller is Jeff from Colerain Township. How's everything in Colerain Township, Jeff?
Hey, doing well, Auditor. Thanks for taking the time. I had a question about the capital budget. Do you think the capital budget will be affected? And if not, when do you think that'll be adopted?
That's a question beyond our ability to answer right now. There seems to be a little bit of a difference of agreement between the House and the Senate, both on the reappropes and the capital budget. My suspicion is the capital budget's probably going to be delayed and may not happen in the short term. The reappropriations budget, I think they're going to continue to work through what they need to do to get something through. My guess is it's going to be slimmed down a little bit, but talk to your legislators about that. They'll give a better understanding than we would. It's an ongoing debate over across the street. Sorry to punt that one, but that one's beyond us.
Okay.
All right. Next is Kimberly. Kimberly sent an email question. Why does unemployment charge township for unemployment for someone who works part-time for the township but lost their job to someone else? I wish I could answer that question. That is a question for the unemployment and for Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. I think the answer is generally they mutualize those across the employee classifications, and that's just the way they do it. Reach out to Job and Family Services. Your legislators can help with that. That's not we don't dictate unemployment comp or unemployment comp rates, and I don't have that answer, and that's not us. Next question is James Mahaffey. James, go ahead and unmute. You're good. Welcome to the call. James, are you there? Says James isn't there. How about Leslie? Leslie, are you there? Leslie Harvey. Leslie Harvey. Leslie, go ahead and unmute. Welcome to the call.
Well, here's her question. When will
Here's
training classes restart with the options for online classes?
All right, we've got Leslie's question. When will training restart, and will there be options for online classes? Yes, Leslie, the answer is both of those. Our training, as you know, we had to cancel the local government summit, and we are doing a fraud summit in the fall unless we have to cancel that. And we are talking about adding a day for local government to that. But as of now, our training is online. There is a link in the chat, or will be a link in the chat that you can go to and access that online training. The good news is we are giving you some training credit for this, so you can self-report based on how long we go. But ultimately, our training is online. We have made some of that available. If you need something specific from UAN, you need something specific, contact us. Most of you should know your regional rep from our customer service team, our regional rep customer service team. If you don't know who they are, there will be a link on the site as well so that you can check on that. And if you have questions specific for training you want to see or something specific, if it's out there, let them know, and certainly they can work with you on that as well. So the training, we're trying to make that accessible, and most of it's going to be available online. Our next question is written in here from Tom Wolf, who's a CPA in Plain Township. What documentation do we need for the SB 310 expenditures for the audit? Great question. And the short answer is we don't know yet. We anticipate that you're going to have to do very detailed documentation for that money. The short answer is we're awaiting guidance from the federal government. We thought it was going to be out this week. Here we are Thursday. We haven't gotten it yet. We think that right now it falls into one of three categoricals. You need to tie whatever you're spending that money on into those three categoricals very tightly. OBM is giving some other directions about the audit. We're concerned that that may not be complete. Historically, the federal audit requirements here are very detailed. And so we will send out a bulletin when we know that. We've got 5 people that are monitoring this and trying to stay up, but they just haven't given the direction yet. So what we're doing is asking you to help us help you. So keep detailed records when you spend that as to what you're spending on it, why you're spending it on it, how you're spending it on it, and make sure you're having trustee authorization. And that will go a long way. If you have a specific question about a spend, make sure you reach out to us, either reach out to your regional customer service rep or our local government support staff, or even the audit offices, and they will give you the best guidance they have. However, right now, we can't give that guidance because we just don't have any guidance from the feds. So we are in the process of trying to interpolate this, and ultimately, we think it's going to be consistent with other federal monies. And if that's the case, it's going to require some detailed guidance. So that's the SB 310, which will be the CARES Act money. I think SB 310 is CARES Act, right? All right. So hopefully, Tom, I answered your questions. Great question. And by the way, we'll post this call onto the site, our website, so you can have other people watch it. We're also putting frequently asked questions. All the questions will go there with the answers as well on our site, so you can look at these in the future. Next question is from Joan. Jones asked, are townships able to reallocate inside millage from the road and bridge fund to the general fund with health department fees and other costs mandated to come from the general fund? My short answer is probably not. Hold it. I'm waiting for Hinkle. Check with your prosecutor. Check for the legal answer. Generally, dedicated source monies are not able to be reallocated, barring legislative action. We're checking on that particular fund, but get an answer from your prosecutor. There are some funds that have some, I don't say commingling ability, but reallocatable ability. But generally, special purpose funds cannot be reallocated. So we'll get you an answer specifically on that fund, and we'll find out. Great question. Pat Mahaffey, Turo Township, are we going to get a break on what you charge for audits this year? Well, the good news is we have for a lot of townships, adjusted our audit expenses. Generally, when I became auditor, we launched an effort to reduce and try and reduce our audit expenses across the board. For the larger entities, some of you may be eligible to qualify for an AUP. We can do 2 AUPs, and then statutorily we have to do a full audit. And so we are trying to keep those costs in check and lower those costs where we can. The legislature did give us the Local Government Audit Assistance Fund, which did reduce our audit expenses by upwards of 30% of what they would have been, because as you know, our audit rates have not increased the hourly rate since 2003, and we were in a position where we were going to have to increase that. We did not, and so we kept those low. I have asked our auditors to keep cost in mind on everything they do. If you're concerned that your costs are disproportionate, if something goes up or something changes, make sure you let your customer rep know, and we will do a detailed dive to figure out what's going on and whether there's something unusual or whether there's something we can control. So we're going to keep an eye on that and keep trying to do that as to the extent we can. If you'd like to ask a question, please go to the drop-down arrow button, the red arrow, and hit ask a question. We'll put you in the queue, and when we call on you, you can just unmute. Karen from Painville Township. I'm sorry I didn't hear how much gas tax we expect to lose. The answer is we don't know. We know that ODOT was reporting during the March and April time periods. They thought driving was down between 30 and 50%, 40 and 60% were the numbers we heard. So if you just extrapolate that for 2 months of down 40%, you should anticipate 1/6 down 40%. And so that will give you a benchmark. We're telling everybody that the governor's guidance generally is anticipate upwards of 20%. The problem is if you're trying to plan road projects based on the summer work schedule and your revenues are coming in, it may be a tough adjustment. Now, remember, some of this is in arrears, so it's a tough benchmark to look at. We're giving guidance that if you anticipate 20%, it may be more, it may be less, but at least you've started the process to anticipate that adjustment. And the best we can tell, we have not gotten any more further guidance from the Department of Tax or OBM on this, but we're trying to extrapolate from the information they've given us to try and give you some guidance. And the bottom line is it's our guidance. It's not etched in stone, but we think that planning now is better than waiting until we get more certain numbers. So understand that. If you'd like to ask a question, raise your hand under the red arrow and we'll call on you. These questions are great. That's where we get the great questions. And from that perspective, here's a question to discuss cybersecurity. We know as more people are working remotely, the instance of cyber attack are going to go up. This is a major concern for our office before COVID. It's an even bigger concern for us now. We know, for example, that there was a township in Ohio that lost over $1 million last summer. Hackers will target you. You need to make sure your protocols for the anti-phishing and your employee protocols for not clicking on, not giving information are all in place, particularly working from home. To the extent you use the UAN system, there's some training available there, but we are concerned there as well. It is more secure than other options. However, if you're concerned about cyber, certainly talk to the cyber experts out there, and we're there to help as well. So cyber's a big deal, and you need to do what you can to stay safe. Courtney Hatt from Champion Township in Trumbull County. Courtney, you're on the call. Unmute and you're good to go. Are you there, Courtney? There you are. Courtney, go ahead and unmute your computer.
For some reason, she can't be unmuted. Ask her if she'll put the question into the.
Courtney, just put the question into the chat, type it in, and we'll go ahead and read it. For some reason, we're not getting there.
This question is from.
This is from Hyatt, Champion Township, Trumbull County.
Barb Reman.
Barb Reman. Our budget is just over $1.5 million, and the wages of the trustee and fiscal officers are based on the breakpoint of $1.5 million. What happens if revenues are down 20%? When does it affect the salary? Great question. We got that question the last call. The short answer is it will impact your salary when the new revenues are certified. Once you take the new revenues, it will impact the salaries. And when in doubt, please reach out to our audit folks and get that answer right. We don't want to do findings for adjustment or findings for recovery. So if you're in doubt as to what's happening there when your revenues come in, please call one of our audit folks, work with your regional rep, and let's get that answer right. And so for your individual circumstance, we'll work you through that because we don't want to issue findings of recovery. Lori Seaman from Coventry Township. Will local government funds be reduced for 2021 or just 2020? Remember, the state budgets a fiscal year starting on July 1st to the following fiscal year. You budget on calendar years, most of you. So the short answer is any adjustments likely to carry forward to the last half of this calendar year and the first half of the next calendar year. So you need to anticipate that accordingly. Now, it depends on how big a percentage of your local government funds are of your overall budget, how much of an impact that's going to be to you. But right now, they're talking about a $6 billion budget hole to be solved in the beginning of the fiscal year with a budget corrections bill. Part of that, the governor adjusted, we think, for the end of this fiscal year, but that's still a lot of money. And so the question is, do they hit the local government fund adjustment? As it tracks revenues, it should adjust through those numbers as well. So you should anticipate that into this year, early next year as well. Tom, again, from Plain Township, for budgeting purposes, do you have an estimate of the percentage decrease for the local government fund that we should use? I think if you use the number that they're giving across the budget lines for state of 20%, you should be at least available to adjust. If it's a little more than that, then you've prepared. If it's less than that, you're pleasantly surprised. So we think that 20% number that is out there, and the legislature could decide that's not where they're going to take any budget corrections, and they're not going to adjust it at all. I doubt that that's going to be the case, but again, that's their call. We're just trying to prepare you. Remember, making small adjustments over a longer period of time is better than having to make a big adjustment over a short period of time. So if you plan, you'll be able to make those adjustments. Lori from Richfield Township, is or will the UAN be accepting new users in 2020? Absolutely. If you want to join UAN, we're open. We can get you set up. We can get you on board. We have the ability to do some of that remotely. We can do some training remotely, and we can send our people out there using proper social distancing and proper safety protocols. So if you're thinking about going to UAN, now's the time. Our rates are staying the same. Frankly, we're looking at trying to do some rate reductions, some rate adjustments there potentially. I can't say we're going to do that yet. We're trying to budget for that, but the UAN is open. Courtney, Champion Township, Trumbull County, we got your question. The OTA offered guidance on early retirements for at-risk employees. Where should we find guidance on models for severance payouts, etc.? We will put the guidance that we have into the frequently asked questions that are going to be available on our website after this call. That's a question that we need to get a little more information on. Again, if you have a specific question about something you're going to do, reach out to our regional reps and they'll get you in touch with the right people on our audit team. But the short answer is whatever you do in this realm has to be approved and make a good record of with your township trustees. The same thing if you paid people remotely who are otherwise coming in, or you paid people to do alternative work. Make sure you certify that through your trustees. There's a question of whether you have authority to do some of that. We're operating on maximum flexibility. The legislature, we've asked to give you that authority. They haven't done that, but in the interim, again, make sure you certify that and work with your prosecutors on both of those questions. Next question's Ron Grossman, Jackson Township. Ron, you're on the call. Go ahead and unmute and join us. Ron, you need to unmute your computer. You're there. Ron, welcome.
Hey, my question is, will the state be reimbursing us for the homestead and rollback property taxes that are withheld from property tax payments.
Yeah, the state, I think that's statutory. I think the state should continue to reimburse those. And that should be continuing. I have heard no indication that the state plans on discontinuing that rollback. There is a discussion going on with the tax commissioner and the auditors and our office about making sure that those rollback are accurately on the books, but that would not be an impact to you guys. The local government share would be the same. Either the individual would pay it or the state would pay it, even if they do a tax amnesty to try and true that up. But I've heard nothing about those being impacted. Great question. Next question is from Nicole Smith. Nicole asked if we could discuss House Bill 310. If it passes and money is to be received, it is reported that it would need to be put in specialized fund. It's also to only be used for COVID expenses. How would that work for expenses that have already been paid? I don't know that it needs to be put in a specialized fund. The legislation is still being debated. That could change, but we don't necessarily haven't heard anything about a specialized fund. It does need to be specially accounted for. The federal limitations on that are very narrow. There are 3 different baskets that you can spend money on. You are able to reimburse expenditures generally if they meet the qualifications. You're going to need to document. There is some guidance that we think is saying the document requirements could be rolled back a little bit. I'm very cautious about telling you to do that. I would tell you, even if they are rolled back, still document the snot out of it. Make sure you explain why you're spending it, why it qualifies. When in doubt, ask our people. We'll be able to guide you through that. Hopefully the federal government releases some of those restrictions. If they do, then we can follow through with our audit requirements. However, right now the restrictions are fairly tight, and we're going to be required, we believe, to audit under a heightened sense. Now the reality is the federal government hasn't given us that guidance. We thought it was coming out this week. It hasn't come out. This is Thursday. When that comes out, we will issue a bulletin on that as well to give guidance on those CARES Act monies. Bob, did I jump over the moon there?
You're good.
We're good. Bob Hinkle tells me I'm good with that answer. So document. Hopefully that helps. Other questions, please. If you've got a question, these discussions are helpful to us to know what you're thinking. Please go to the arrow, click, ask a question, raise your hand, and we'll call on you and you unmute, and we're good to have the discussion.
I have an answer to the inside millage question.
We have an answer to the inside millage question.
If they go to the Ohio Township Association.
If you go to the Ohio Township Association website,
Grassroots Clippings,
December 2012, page 4. It's addressed.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, again, go to the Township Association Grassroots Clippings. What's the date?
December 2012.
December 2012, page 4. What's the answer?
It can be done.
It can be done.
If there's not a municipality in the township.
If there's not a municipality in the township. Like all of these answers, get a specific answer from your prosecutor, contact our people to your particular situation. That nuance is something that could trip people up. We don't want anybody tripped up. We don't like findings for adjustment or findings for recovery. Tom, Plain Township, do you have an estimate of the reduction of the bud tax related to COVID-19? A lot. I'm going to give you the technical answer, Tom. Travel ceased to exist in the months of March and April, and probably still down in May. So if you anticipate 3 months of near complete reduction in your bed tax, you're going to be on track. Could it have been as much as 50, 60, 70%? Yes. And that will impact to the extent you rely on those revenues. So you should anticipate that. We think travel is going to gradually increase, but you're going to have a phased out period that's going to see a reduction in those at a significant numbers. We do not have specific numbers from the state, but we think that those numbers are going to be dramatically reduced. Talk to the collecting agency, and they can give you a benchmark probably sooner than we could give you. Again, we've had trouble getting information from Department of Tax. If you want to ask a question, go ahead and either submit it or click the arrow button, and we'll get you on the call right away. It's open. We're happy to take questions. Speaking of open meetings, we talked about this. Look, we got the legislature to give you authority to do meetings remotely, but you still have to give the public access. So make sure that the public has access, publicize the access logins, publicize the way for them to get on the calls, get on the meetings, and then record it. Almost all of these platforms have the ability to record. We're recording this call. We will put it up on our website. So make sure you continue to have that access, and you should be fine. Continue to do your minutes, continue to be careful about what you're doing in executive session, and your public meetings should be okay. Again, we're auditing with maximum flexibility. We want to make sure that people have compliance. Other questions? We're waiting. I have to give a shout out to Heidi and your staff. Look, the association is just rock solid. I've had a great working relationship with the Township Association for a long time. Big fan of townships. I represented in the legislature townships more than I did any other form of government, and I appreciate the services you guys give. Penny Bogner, sorry. If we had an agreement with the local school district for an SRO, but the school stopped the program due to school being closed, and we brought those officers back to road patrol, could future reimbursements help with these unexpected expenses of the officers? And this was unexpected and directly resulting from the pandemic. Don't know. We're waiting for guidance from the feds. I would think that there is a relationship between the COVID adjustments and keeping those people employed, so that there is a logical nexus there. But again, one, consult your prosecutor. Two, let's wait until we get the guidance from the feds. And when in doubt, ask our audit staff. Reach out to them through your customer service rep, and we'll try and get you a specific answer. Bob, did you hear that question?
I'm sorry.
The question was, they had a school resource officer with the school district.
Okay.
Since there was nobody in school, the school district discontinued those payments, canceled the program or suspended the program. They needed to keep those people employed under COVID. Can those people be reimbursed under the CARES Act money? My suspicion is yes.
I believe they can. More information coming.
More information coming. Bob thinks you can too.
Trustees should take action.
Trustees need to take action. This is where I go back to document. Make sure the trustees passed a resolution saying we are going to continue to pay these people for the good of the township, to keep them employed, give them other responsibilities, whatever you can do. You know, there's a question out there, and we've kind of said we're going to operate under the ask forgiveness, not permission resource with regard to local government's ability to keep people on the payroll without clear statutory authority. As long as you document it, as long as your legislative body acted, as long as it's consistent with the public policy stated, we're going to give you as much deference as statutorily we're able to do. It would be great if the legislature made that clear, but we're operating under the presumption that you can try and keep those people paid, particularly if you're using CARES Act money. Janice Marshall of Copley Township, are public hearings able to be held virtually as well? The short answer is yes. We believe under the statute, your ability to have those hearings virtually. Again, got to have public access, you got to record them. Tim Brown asked, if there is a respike in a quarantine in the fall, would you agree a 10% reduction in state revenue every 4 weeks is a reasonable thought? Look, I can't give you a matrix because it depends on what happens. There's an argument out there in the public forum that we're not as likely to go into complete quarantine and lockdown even if we have a spike, because there's some question as to what the ramifications of that are and what the impact on the economy is and on public health. There's an argument that public health is also impacted when you shut the economy down. And so I can't guarantee you, even if we had another respike, that they're going to shut the economy down. I don't know where they're going to land. But we do think that a 20% reduction in the 2 months that we had is a good benchmark. And so if that happens and we're shut down for a couple of months, you could look at another 20% adjustment. It's going to track where the public revenues are. And it's tough for us to give. We're giving guidance. We're trying to help give you something to start managing on with the best information we have. And as I've said, if you go 20% and it ends up being 30%, well, you're at least more prepared than if you'd gone 5% or didn't do anything. And if it ends up being 5%, you're at least pleasantly surprised and you're able to repurpose this. We just want to get the information to you soon, because making those adjustments over a longer period of time gives you more time to react. Next question is Tom Wolf. Tom, if you switch to UAN, is there in-person training available? Probably not. There might be some in-person install and other things to help with that, but I can tell you there will be likely one-on-one support training. It may be over remote access to walk you through it with some remote features. So look, our people have to be safe too, and to the extent that we can get that up and going, we will do the best we can to make sure the training works for you. Tom Wolf. Oh, that was Tom's. Again, if you want to ask a question, go to the arrow, drop down, raise your hand. We'll call on you and you can unmute. Great questions. These are just rock. Courtney, you're on the call. Go ahead and unmute. You were self-muted. Courtney, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to talk to you, Courtney. How are things in your world?
I think they're doing pretty well. We are in the middle, or were in the middle of contract negotiations. We got extensions to May 31st. So what are your recommendations to pushing back negotiations, or to trying to plow through, or what are you suggesting on that end?
Look, I would think to the extent that you can push back, you're going to have a better picture when you get more definitive answers. Now, on the other hand, depending on who you're negotiating with, they may want to be giving you some concessions early on, knowing that it could get worse. But again, I think you've got a reasonable estimate with our guidance as to where things are going to be. It may be better, may be worse, but certainly pushing things back is more certain.
Thank you.
Great. Good luck with that. Everybody understands the dynamics as to what we have. Susan from Madison Township in Franklin County. When you say trustee approval for expenses, if it's a general expense for additional supplies to build barriers, buy supplies, etc., the fact that they approve the warrants or sign the checks, is that considered approval? So keep a copy of the check or warrant with the paperwork to be audited. As long as you're within your normal approved spending authorizations, the short answer is yes. If it's extraordinary, we believe the trustees should be voting and approving those things, particularly with personnel issues. If you guys decide, for example, you had a maintenance person that wasn't able to come in because of the state home orders, and you said, here's what we want you to do. We want you to plan. We want you to work on inventory. We want you to take home a laptop and do some management on inventory and supplies. All of those things are not what the person normally did. We think the trustees should approve that work from home authorization and the pay. And look, we're not going to come in and do a time study to say, well, that should have only taken 30 hours and you paid them 40. We're not going to do that. But help us help you. If your authorization and your resolution says, here's what we're going to do, we're going to continue to pay them the rate, we're going to assign them other responsibilities, we're going to give the superintendent authority to assign them other responsibilities. Help us help you. Help us see a paper trail to justify what you did, and we will audit that with maximum flexibility. So we want to help, but we believe that your legislative body needs to authorize these unusual deviations. Molly Sass, you're on the call. Molly, unmute, and you're good to go.
All right.
Molly, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. What township? Where are you from, Molly?
I'm from Portage Township up on Lake Erie.
Yep, good. How's everything?
Well, could be better, but this has set us back quite a bit. So being on the lake and being a tourist area and difficult. Hey, I have a question. If for some reason your fiscal officer becomes ill and you need someone to help while she is getting well, are you allowed to put someone into her spot? As this is a very difficult job in the UAN, and it's just overwhelming. So what is the procedure for that?
You can do a visiting clerk um, in that role? So the answer is yes, you can. If that happens, we would ask that you reach out to our folks. We can help with that. We can help even identify some visiting clerks and help with that. But certainly, yes, if somebody's ill, you need to have that position filled, and there are some things you can do to do that. And certainly, our local government support unit can come in and help as well. We're ready, willing, and able to help with that. Does that help?
Yes, yes. So I would just turn to the Township Association for guidance.
Well, you certainly could. You could turn to your prosecutor, or you could reach out to our regional customer service rep and help get support from our local government support unit, our LGS support unit, or UAN, depending on if it's a UAN customer. What county you're in? What county did she say?
Portage Township up on the lake.
Portage Township.
No.
No, it's
Ottawa County. I'm sorry, Ottawa County.
Lori Brody is your customer service rep. Do you know Lori?
No, I do not.
Okay, Lori will reach out to you, and Lori's probably on this call, and she will reach out to you. And if are you having this circumstance, or are you just what ifing?
Yes and no. So
I'll tell you what, Lori's going to reach out to you, and we can certainly have our local government support unit folks reach out as well, and talk to you through some of those options.
well, thank you very much.
Okay, I have a clarification. Bob Hinkle just slipped me this note. Apparently, CARES Act funding through 310, as currently drafted, requires a special fund. So when I said no special fund, we were incorrect. See, look at this. We make mistakes too. We're trying to all learn this new normal as it currently sits. Now, remember, it's in the committee. It hadn't been voted on yet. Could change, but currently in the bill, it requires a special fund. So there you have it. We're all cutting edge. The bill hasn't passed, but it's anticipated it will require a special fund. All right, I have Christine. Are you online?
I am.
Hi, Christine. How are you?
Hi. So I just wanted to jump in to what Portage Township just commented on. I'm in Lorain County. I am a trustee, but I am also a fiscal officer for a small village. One of our neighboring townships has a fiscal officer who's battling cancer. Their trustees appointed a deputy fiscal officer and an assistant fiscal officer. So we've got two different fiscal officers helping keep that township afloat.
Yes, and
So
that is a common, it's not unusual. We have worked with that and can certainly help with that. Look, if any of you, if somebody needs help, let us know. Our people are designed to try and help that and come in and help as well. And we certainly can pair you up with people who do this and who have experience. And most people, look, we want to make sure that the job's done and things are taken care of. That's our number one goal, to continue to serve Bob and Betty Buckeye. Thank you for that. All right, I'm told that our time has quickly come to an end. The good news is you're all going to get a half hour. Did we get a half hour? Did we bump up to an hour? A half hour of credit if you go ahead and fiscal officer submit that. We will continue to take questions and work through this. If you have other questions, you can reach out to us through the association or directly through your regional reps. We're there to help. We want to make sure we get through this with as minimal problems. We're all learning. We know it's going to be a little bumpy at time. Is there anybody else? Did somebody else jump in for the question? Kathy, you're on the line. Go ahead. Right before I wrap this up, you're on. Unmute. Kathy, are you there? Jennifer Evans. Jennifer, are you there? Go ahead and unmute. Jennifer, are you there? How about Christopher Willard? Christopher? They all raised their hand at the last second. We're trying to make sure we get as many as we can. Christopher, are you there? Go ahead and unmute. You're on the call. All right. Apparently I scared them away when I said we were going to wrap this up. Well, folks, thank you for coming and joining us today. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have other questions, please get them to us. We will answer them. You can always check our videos on our website or go to our frequently asked questions on the website as well and get a summary of those. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for serving Bob and Betty Buckeye. And thanks for the great work the townships do. It's one of the most efficient forms of government. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay safe.